Welcome to Milking the Franchise, the Cash Cow Chronicles, where me and Chris watch movies.
Can you do that in like a robot noise? What would a robot sound like when it said that?
Movies. Or the whole
Good.
thing.
No, just that part. But you can do the whole thing if you want.
Oh, what does RoboCop sound like?
Movies.
We're
Just
gonna
like
just
that.
every
I'm
intro.
a cop and a robot. He says that all the time in these movies.
Do you want to try it? You're pretty good at it. Do you want to do the intro?
I don't think we should mess with something that's not broken. You're killing it up there.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, welcome to the show. It's the podcast where we listen to or we watch movies. We watch every movie in a franchise, and we talk about all the extra IP that goes along with it and how it gets milked to death. And right now we're watching RoboCop.
Oh, yeah.
All right. We're on RoboCop 2 today. And that's the sequel to RoboCop 1. That's
how 2 works. Thanks for explaining 2.
There's no prequel in between that. Just wanted to get that out. They went straight to the next chapter. Yeah. So that a lot of confusion around that. Chris, how the hell are you?
Tanner, I'm doing great, buddy. Nothing crazy exciting. Just living. Toiling away. Working, doing things. How about you? How are you doing?
Yeah, pretty much the same.
Okay.
We lead interesting lives. We are men of interesting lives.
That's true.
But we'll keep that a secret. That's a little bit our interesting part we like to not talk about. So.
It was good. I told you before I had another 3-day weekend. We had back-to-back 3 days. So I was just, relaxing, maxing, shooting some pool, shooting some b-ball down by the
Where
pool.
did you play pool at?
I didn't actually do that. I think I also screwed up the opening line from the Fresh Prince theme song. So, we're starting the show off on a good foot today.
Should we do that franchise next?
The Fresh Prince of Bel Air.
I mean, franchise? It started as a rapper, went to a TV show, and then it has that Bel Air show. Do you know about that?
Oh, you're right. The one that they did all serious like.
Yeah. No, we'll skip it. Okay. But I'm looking for the Carlton spinoff. I'm waiting for it.
Well, they just canceled Young Sheldon, so maybe Young Carlton can show up in its place.
It's about the same show, isn't it? You're right.
Yeah. A lot of like bow ties either way.
Did they cancel Young Sheldon, or did he just grow up and become Jim Parsons?
It's got to be that, right? I mean, the show got 7 seasons. I think I saw today. So,
damn.
I think it's got to be the latter.
It's just Sheldon now.
He's just older than the actor who played Sheldon. Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, we this is the podcast. What am I saying, Chris?
Well,
we're going to talk about RoboCop 2.
What we're doing here. That's what you're trying to do.
Yeah. What are we going to do before we watch RoboCop 2? That's what I want.
Well, part of this show that we enjoy is each week after we talk about the movies, we put out a little survey in the show notes. So take a peek after today's episode for a little survey. It's all jokes and quips and silly little bits and questions that we came up with based on the movie RoboCop 2. And we put out a survey just like that one about RoboCop 1. Again, if you need to understand how 1 and 2 are connected, replay this episode. Tanner explained that at the top. But anyway, we have some results from our RoboCop 1 survey from last week.
They should start releasing them like in reverse order. Like if it's a trilogy, like do Lord of the Rings, but 3 first. You know,
Mhm.
just
So
just
just
to keep
get the
people
ending out
interested.
of the way. You know, we don't want to have to sit there through 2 movies wondering how they're going to end. Just like,
Yeah, then you're like, oh my god, how did this all begin? I can't wait to figure out how this story began. Oh, I bet it was all like the times are all like everyone's having a good time, and then to see it come to this, wow.
yeah.
Um, it's an idea I'm workshopping.
Okay. No, I think that's great.
Yeah, let's get into the survey here.
I bet if
It's
they'd made the Star Wars movies that way, there would have been a lot more Ewok content in the first two. That's my
oh,
guess.
if only,
If only. Yeah.
people loved Ewoks, right? Ewoks, I do think everyone hated them at the time, like the true fans. But over time, it was like our generation loved Ewoks. I felt like,
Yeah, without
um,
doubt.
but it's kind of like the prequels when they came out. Our generation was like, these prequels are no good. But nowadays, they're kind of look back more fondly. I don't think that'll happen with the new trilogy. We'll see.
You never know.
You never know. BB-8 is pretty cute, I will say. Let's move on. We'll do Star Trek next time.
We are
Or
not
like our
doing Star Trek next time.
Star Wars, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Let's talk about RoboCop 1. So the survey is meant to elicit funny responses. But we also have our favorite line. Favorite line of the movie was "Bitches leave," or no, "Dead or alive, you're coming with me." Excuse me. Dead or
We got
alive, you're
one.
coming
We
with
got
me.
one vote for bitches leave, though. It looks like
One person voted for "Bitches leave," and then I'd buy that for $1.
the
That's my
classic.
favorite line.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it all week, saying it here and there. Um, it's great.
Oh, just trying to sneak it into casual conversation.
Yeah, I mean, it like comes up like if I see something I like, I'm just like, I'll buy that. I'd buy that for $1.
Sure.
It works.
It's got legs,
Favorite
dude.
favorite commercial or TV show? So they feature a lot of these satirical commercials and TV shows that are spread out across the movie. The favorite one was the "I'll buy that for $1" TV show.
There it is.
I don't know if it has an actual name, but yeah. Runner up was the 6000 Sucks SUX car ad for the gas guzzling car.
Right on.
Favorite RoboCop moment. Favorite here was blowing away an entire cocaine factory.
That scene was so insane. So good, though.
Pretty good.
Is that what you voted for? I don't think that's the one I voted for.
It wasn't. No,
What did
I
you
voted
vote?
for outrunning Ed 209 on the stairs.
That was nice.
And then someone voted for shooting through the dress and hitting the attacker's dick.
That was my vote.
Yeah. Favorite
Yeah.
non-RoboCop moment.
Lots of great moments, though.
So many great moments. Probably left a few off the table here. Favorite non-RoboCop moment, we got the opening boardroom meeting with the guy getting shot by Ed 209 was the winner. I like
Such
that
a great.
too.
Yeah, me too. That was my vote. Such a great opening to that movie.
Yeah. First time you see it, it's like shocking.
Yeah.
Runner up, the only other one that got votes, getting covered in toxic waste, turning into a melty man, and getting hit by a car.
Excellent.
Let's see. We got some prompts here. This is where it gets juicy.
Ooh.
You like juicy?
You know I like juicy, baby.
Make a new prime directive for RoboCop. We got no mercy for the guilty. Always oppose an OCP officer. Protect the innocent. I feel like that's already one.
That's like the second one, I think. Yeah.
Always seek justice.
Okay.
More gun spins. Eviscerate the proletariat.
It's gonna need a thesaurus to do that last one.
RoboCop's a commie now. Besides
Okay.
Iron Butt or Boner, what do you call your boss behind their back? Dick, asshole, not available. They don't. They love their boss, or they are a boss.
Or maybe they work from home.
Maybe
You
they
know?
work from home. Yeah.
They're never behind their boss's back.
Oh, true. Yeah, good call.
Yeah.
Piece of shit.
Right.
Nice. Dork face butt. Poo poo balls and sweat lodge.
Poo balls. Oh, okay.
I thought that poo poo balls was on point with it's on par with like Iron Butt and Boner.
I definitely agree. Yeah.
Dork face
Poo
butt.
balls.
Also
It got
pretty
a.
good.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you. That one was mine. The poo balls got a laugh out loud out of me. So thank you for that one. Whoever put that one in.
Oh yeah, I know what you like.
Juicy poo balls.
We need some sweatpants that say that.
Mhm.
Juicy poo poo balls.
Juicy poo ball. I'm imagining sweatpants that say poo balls across the back in that same like that swirly juicy font. Yeah.
Well, it's like juicy pants for men, and then on the front it says poo poo balls.
Poo balls. Yep.
What satirical?
We can't
product?
be giving out these ideas to the world for free, Tanner. This is solid gold.
Oh, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just give us a cut. That's all we ask for.
Yeah.
Then we asked, what satirical products would you include in a modern RoboCop reboot?
You mean besides poo balls, sweatpants? Like
There's
other
no
products
satire there.
that?
I'm dead serious.
All right. So what products we got here, Tanner?
We got COVID deterrence.
Okay.
Just general that. Then dunno.
Okay.
Social media in general. OCP to build rockets as public transportation. Nice.
Okay.
Subscriber, a subscription service that tells you about new subscription services. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so you pay a monthly fee and it tells you,
and it lets you know when a new one pops up.
Like, hey, you could get this other monthly fee for get, I don't know, Soda Stream delivered to your house every week.
Exactly. Yeah.
Love it.
For a low monthly fee, subscriber will tell you about that Soda Stream special.
I mean, how else are you going to find out about it?
I don't think there's a single possible way. You need subscriber in your life.
You need subscriber.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got Get Woke energy drink.
Good.
Snopes headphones, bullshit detectors, brought to you by Snopes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bubble. Block out anyone who doesn't agree with you because you're always right with the bubble.
I can see that one being in one of these movies, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Rate RoboCop. It's 100%. 5 out of 5. Wow.
Hot doggy.
Love it.
Yeah.
Great film.
Great film. Hard to argue with 5 out of 5, man. Such a classic.
Classic movie. We'll see how the second one holds up. Do you want to get into that? Oh, also, if we didn't mention it already, make sure to take the survey for this episode, which is for RoboCop 2.
Yep.
And it's in the show notes and all that. Thank you very much for doing that. Shout out to the Reddit guys for responding. Thank you. All right, Chris. RoboCop 2. Where do you want to start?
You ask me that each week. I need to come up with like a quippy thing to say back. Like, I mean, where do I want to start? At the very beginning, we could do like Sound of Music because that's a very good place to start.
What is that? What do you mean, The Sound of Music?
That's a song lyric from The Sound of Music. Let's start at the very beginning because it's a very good place to start.
Oh my god!
I need a good little quip at the beginning. I'll work on it though. Yeah, but we should start.
I guess I always start anyway, real quick.
Yeah, let's head back to Detroit.
I'll lead you into it real quick though.
That sounds great.
This movie came out in 1990, directed by Irvin Kershner.
Okay. Always a good sign when a director changes between number 1 and number 2.
Oh, I know. I did. I saw that Verhoeven didn't return because he was directing Total Recall was part of it, and that they kind of rushed this out due to like writer strikes and different things. They kind of rushed production on this movie.
I read a little bit about that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will talk about that when we get to Frank Miller at the end of this.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And then where do we begin in the movie? Sorry to interject there.
We're back in Detroit, but the movie doesn't start there. The movie starts with some of those, like in the first movie, we talked about how there were all these cut scenes with fake commercials and with news footage. And this movie kind of follows that trend and starts with a quick ad for Magnavolt, which is a car security system that's basically just a bear trap. And if anybody gets in your car, it bear traps you.
Shocks you.
Yeah, shocks you too. And then we get some news. There's been a nuclear meltdown in the middle of the Amazon rainforest, and the environmentalists are calling it a disaster. But don't they always?
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I like that line quite a bit. But then we're back in Detroit. What did you take away from this first little bit of this movie, Tanner?
Oh, I don't even know. I thought that Ed 209 had been approved for service, and they were going to put him out on the streets, even though he'd had a lot of issues, or it had a lot of issues.
They show a clip of him on the news, and he's still adorably bad at being a police robot.
He is. They do kind of make him like cute, don't they?
Yeah, he really has had a fall from grace since that first scene in the first movie, where he shoots up the boardroom, and now he's just used for comic effect.
Yeah, in a couple different things that I've seen other IP, he's directing Traffic a lot.
Oh, okay.
And not well. It's something I read. Something I read. He's like directing Traffic, and then there's just a huge pileup of cars around him.
That's great.
Let's see. What I got was that the Attorney General, I believe, they mentioned has been killed by a nuke addict. So there's this new drug on the street called nuke, and everyone's got to have it. It's cheap. It gets you fucking high. And there's a leader of the nuke cult called Kane. And I think that's kind of it for the news station stuff, right?
That's about it. I did like at the end of that, they showed the footage of the Attorney General, Surgeon General, whatever that guy was, getting shot by the nuke junkie. And then they talk about this guy, Kane, and then they just said, this station has just received transmission from Kane, convicted killer and leader of the nuke cult. And then they just allow him to talk on the news, which seems like really irresponsible on the news station's part. Am I wrong there? Yeah.
No, and they're just we're receiving transmission from him right now.
Yeah. Apparently, if you're a convicted killer or the leader of a drug cult, you can just get on the news when you want.
I mean, we got to hear what he has to say, They don't want to leave anyone out.
I get it.
And then we kind of move into the streets of Detroit, and they give us a nice little rundown of how it's going, showing us how Detroit is holding up these days. And there's a little just shot of. So it starts with an old lady with a shopping cart full of cans, and her cart gets hit by a car, and she falls down, and this guy comes up to looks like he's going to help her, but then he ends up robbing her, and he walks away, and it follows him for a minute, and then he gets beat up by two women who beat the shit out of him and also rob him. I just like the little chain of robbery thing that they did there.
Yep. And then those girls walk past a gun store, and the gun store is getting robbed. So it's just Detroit is not doing great.
All the robbers are getting robbed. So
yeah. And it starts with a woman collecting cans getting robbed. That's the richest person in the opening sequence.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the gun store is getting robbed, and they have some of the biggest bazookas I've ever seen in my life.
Well, did you see the name of that store? It showed it right at the
No.
very end. Nick's State-of-the-Art Police and Military Artillery was the name of that store that they were robbing.
Nice.
So that's why they had those big old guns.
Yeah, the cops are on strike. Someone mentions like fully on strike. It seems right.
Yes.
And so they're kind
They
of like
spend most of this movie on a picket line. The cops
Yeah.
are, yeah.
It seems like not all of them are on strike though. Is that right? Like they're doing a really bad job of unionizing.
Yeah, that might be true. I mean, I remember they kind of break the picket line to go help RoboCop at the end.
For sure.
Yeah, but I think you're right. There's still a couple. They're still in here and there.
Because like Lewis doesn't seem to be protesting ever.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
And I know they call RoboCop like a scab or something at one point.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, they're robbing this store, and a cop car pulls up, and they're like, they're supposed to be on strike here, so they get out their bazookas and they blow it up not once but twice, and then just open fire completely on this one car. Getting some feedback from you here a little bit.
I'm sorry. You got me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then who emerges from the car?
Yeah, after just a tornado of bullets and missiles, RoboCop steps out. You get this awesome shot of his foot just like stomping down. It's quite an entrance for him in this movie. And he drops shoots a bunch of these guys. At one point, a guy shoots at him and he goes, "Think it over, creep," and then shoots him again. And in one of the cars, he finds a sample of this drug nuke. And so that's kind of like one of the real catalysts of this movie is this new drug epidemic that's kind of taken over Detroit, this nuke stuff. And he decides he's going to go figure out where this stuff came from. And so he goes for to try and track this stuff down.
Yeah, he's asking, where Nuke is. Did the guy actually give him the information? I felt like they didn't give him anything, but then he shows up at a drug factory. Maybe I missed it.
I know the dirty cop rats them out at one point, but I thought that was later. I don't think he had the information at this point.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
He was looking for it, and then he does show up at a nuke factory, basically, right after.
Yeah.
And there's like women and children at this factory. He kind of sneaks in. The security is terrible. Actually, he doesn't sneak in, does he? He like punches a hole through the door.
I love that scene, actually. Yeah.
But nobody else noticed anything.
Yeah. He's pretty sneaky for a giant robot man, for sure.
Yeah.
But he kind of just stands in the back and observes, and you see like Tanner said, a bunch of women and children, and then a bunch of. It was kind of a sexy drug making factory. A lot of people wearing kind of nicer clothes. Yeah, I guess you're right. All the ones I've been to.
All the ones I've worked at.
Yeah, right. And then at one point he goes, "This is a bust," and it turns into a big shootout. Most of the higher ups, we got a quick shot of them when RoboCop was casing the place. They mostly escape, and RoboCop is left with a child. Like there's like a 10-year-old kid who goes, "Can't shoot a kid, can you, fucker?" And then he shoots him in the face. Yeah, I really like that character. I thought he was funny.
So good.
Yeah. Let's see. Lewis is back. They got the same actress who played Officer Lewis in the first movie. And RoboCop ends up in this standoff at the end with one of the guys from the nuke factory, holding a like an infant, like a tiny little baby hostage, and he calculates the most insane ricochet shot to get out of that. Kind of a nice little callback to the shoot through the dress scene in the first movie.
I've been playing the new RoboCop game that just came out, Rogue City, and there's an upgrade that I got that was like you can like use your Robo Vision or whatever to find places to ricochet guys in the room, which is pretty cool.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Is it in that like 80s? Does it have like that 80s look to it, like this one did?
A little bit. Yeah. It's just like a green kind of grid that shows up on a wall and you shoot
Okay,
it.
that's
Yeah.
what it was in the. Yeah, great.
I noticed that game is a lot more references to this movie that I noticed while watching this movie. But yeah, we'll talk more about that later.
Cool.
Um, and then I like how he was kind of just like, the guy's like, I'm going to kill it. I'll kill this kid. Don't come any close. I'll kill him. And he's like, no, we can't have that. Kind of his reactions to things is so funny. Yeah. Where do we go?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
next he kind of goes. So he saves the day here, and then he goes to his. He's been stalking his old wife, basically, right, and kind of like watching her in her new life.
yes.
Um,
Uh,
and he's having all these memories of his child flash to him, and like being with his wife. When he sees her, and he's kind of waiting outside her house. There's a quick little shot of him tickling her feet in first person, which I thought was kind of
I'm
funny.
sure. I'm sure the internet loves that.
It was just
It's
like
somebody's thing. Yeah.
one of like three little scenes is like him like tickling her feet. Yeah, so she's then you find out after that she's been like contacting the station and maybe trying to sue OCP for and she's been coming around the station, right? So she knows or suspects that RoboCop is her husband, is that right?
Her husband. Yeah. 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 And hell yeah, she should sue them. They
Oh,
turned her
definitely.
husband into this weird robot monster. Yeah. So
Yeah.
after we get that scene, like Tanner said, of him kind of spying on his old family, and then back at the police station, he's getting interrogated by some of the OCP kind of like project manager dudes. Who basically just call him out for being a robot. Like, what do you think you are? What are you trying to do here? Do you think you're capable of love? No, you're a robot. You're a machine. And
Yeah, they basically have him say like, just tell us that you're not, we want you to say that you're just a machine kind of thing. And I
yeah,
think he's just kind of playing the part a little bit here, right? I think he's smart enough to he's kind of just saying it so they'll go away.
a little bit.
That's what I
Yeah,
picked up on. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah,
But
the
yeah,
wife shows up right after that, just kind of waltzes right into the back room where he's kept, which I
yeah.
thought was kind of strange. And she sees him without his mask on, which I don't know if that had happened before.
And again, this is
Oh,
just adding trauma on top of what the OCP already did to her. I feel like this is just adding to the lawsuit. But he has the opportunity to kind of come clean and say like, "You are my wife," like, or that he remembers her or something. But he doesn't. Instead, he has her touch his face to feel how cold it is, and tells her that they made him to honor your husband. It's not me. I don't know you. And just kind of blows her off, even after he's been spending all this time stalking her.
yeah. I mean, they kind of say like, what is, I think he may be aware he's doing it for her kind of thing, so she can like let it go.
Yeah,
More so than him actually feeling that way, although he might. Who knows? But yeah, I think that's maybe the last that you see of her. I can't remember.
yeah. She doesn't. They didn't really wrap up this storyline very well in this movie. It kind of
Yeah,
just went away. Yeah.
yeah,
There is an ad here that I wanted to highlight because it is
yeah,
scene for scene from Frank Miller. It's in his the graphic novel, and it's super dark. Do you know the one that I'm talking about that shows up here?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's some worker who's talking about how he's trying to download the specs, but they didn't come through, and then it just shows him shoot himself in the head.
Yep.
Yeah,
OCP Communications, the only choice.
exactly.
He kills himself because of a slow connection. He lost his job or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty dark, pretty great. I don't know. I think I wanted to highlight this because I'll talk about the graphic novel later, but this really kind of matched the tone of the rest of it. I thought
Oh, I bet.
it was a pretty dark comic. So So we get that scene in the movie, and then the mayor shows up at OCP headquarters to argue with OCP, and the city owes OCP a bunch of money, and OCP is kind of playing hardball. So the mayor shows up to he kind of shows up with like an axe to grind. He's like angry, and he's like, "I'm the mayor. I'm above this." But pretty quickly, OCP puts him in his place.
Yeah, they basically own the city at this point, right? Because of the city's debt to them. They say
$27 million. Yeah.
Jeez. They say they're taking Detroit private.
Mm-hmm.
So they're basically turning Detroit into like a corporate-owned city. And I don't really have much else on that conversation except for the beginning of what they're going to be working on next. Did you get anything there?
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing there, they kind of touch on it, but like they wanted the police strike to happen because the more in debt Detroit becomes, the easier it will be to foreclose upon them. So like OCP is actively like rooting against the city of Detroit at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they kind of go into, I think after the mayor leaves, how there's a new RoboCop that they're working on, right?
That's right.
Called RoboCop 2, of course. It's a shitty robot. They show these little clips of them, I guess, in the past working on it, or maybe it's after this, but they're kind of working on a new RoboCop. And whatever brains they're trying to use, it's not working. They're having really bad, no success with this.
The cyborgs
first one
aren't working. Yeah.
Yeah, the first one comes out and immediately shoots to the scientist and itself. I don't remember what happens with the other one.
The second one rips off its own head.
Oh yeah, and there's like a skull underneath.
Weird little bloody skull underneath.
And so this the new, it's kind of like the character from the first movie, Morton. It's a girl named Dr. Fax, Faxx, and she is kind of like getting her moment to shine here, and says to the old man that they need better candidates, basically with I don't even know, just like better brains. Like she says they need to be like good-hearted men who are like honorable and stuff like that. Is that right?
I mean, she says all that, but then the brain she ends up picking is like not that. Because what she highlights from Murphy was that he's like an Irish Catholic. So he's like a good man, and he has a family. He's like a family man.
And but then the guy, very honorable cop.
Very honorable, But then they pick. I mean, I don't know if we should spoil who the RoboCop 2 becomes later, but not any of those traits.
But I don't know. I guess they do pick. So it's Kane later on that they. But he's kind of like a cult leader, so maybe that's where she was going for. He was like beloved in a way. I don't know.
That could be. Yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Would you make a good RoboCop 2, Tanner? If you're on life support and OCP
I think I'd make a better RoboCop 3, in my opinion.
Okay. So if OCP comes and asks if my brain dead podcast co-host wants to be RoboCop 2, I need to say no. We're gonna wait for the third one.
I told you not to repeat that Apple review. My
brain dead co-host.
It's a great show, except for that brain dead co-host.
I know.
No, yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you there.
No, you're good. I was doing a bit too, and you outbit me. Damn it, Tanner. Yeah. So these RoboCops are not working. They are very unsuccessful. And Juliet Fax kind of pulls a classic Bob Morton move and jumps in, goes straight to the old man, who's the head of OCP, and proposes letting her pick who should be, stop doing cops. Let me pick the next one. And the old man agrees. Meanwhile, the cops are on strike, but there's still a couple people down at the station, like Tanner mentioned before. One of them, we see him like take Nuke. He's like hiding behind a wall, but barely. He's not really trying to hide it very well.
Yeah, he just goes in like a closet real quick and kind of takes his nuke.
And the way you take Nuke, they looked like little. I don't know. For a while, I had prescription eye drops that came in these little dropper bottles.
Yes.
And it just looks like that. And they touch it up to their neck, and it's got red stuff on the inside. Yeah. So,
that's how you do fentanyl, Chris.
Oh, it's eye drop stuff.
Yeah, but you stab it in your neck.
You poke your neck with it. Okay. So things at the police department are not going great. Let's see. Go ahead.
I think it's the cop that cop is seen going to where like the drug kingpins are. Is it a club or something?
Yeah, it was like an arcade.
Oh yeah, at the arcade.
There were a bunch of arcade games downstairs.
Which is also a part of the game, I noticed after I saw this.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, that arcade is in there, and you bust up the drug stuff. But yeah, there's a little kid there. Did we mention the kid yet?
Briefly.
I mean, we talked about him briefly, but what's his name?
I didn't catch his name, but he's like one
like
of
Bub,
the.
Or
is it Bub?
Hob. His name is Hob.
Okay.
And he's just like this, like he's like maybe one of the better actors in the entire movie. This little kid he becomes like the head boss at one point of this movie.
Yeah.
He's just unexplainably, he is like one of the main leaders of this cult and this gang. And he's really good.
He's great. He's great. Yeah, it's also just really fun having this like gang kingpin that's a 12-year-old child.
I know. I think that was supposed to be part of the satire of it.
Yeah.
They were trying to go for something there. Yeah, and it shows the cop working with these people and getting Nuke in return, money and Nuke. They're keeping him hooked. And he gives them patrol routes of cop cars so they can kill them.
Pretty fucked up.
Yeah. And then Lewis and RoboCop are watching from afar, right?
Yeah, they're on a stakeout like across the street at this point, I think.
Yeah.
And then RoboCop busts in.
They bust in.
Yeah, everybody takes off running. The little kid gets Lewis in a chokehold. RoboCop catches up with the crooked cop, whose name is Duffy. He's the guy who was taking Nuke at the police station earlier. We see from him a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And RoboCop basically is trying to get Duffy to tell where Kane is. And this is where Duffy actually, I think, does squeal and gives... he doesn't know exactly where Kane is, but he does know the address.
He tells him it's at River Rouge, the old sludge plant, which I don't know what sludge is, but that's...
Was it smudge, maybe?
No, I think it's sludge, because I did see... Actually, I did... Somewhere on Wikipedia, I saw that sludge might have been like a different drug in this universe.
Oh, I read that the original script for this movie had smudge as but maybe I read it wrong, as the drug.
Oh, maybe it was smudge then. Either way. Yeah, no, I think it's sludge. Yeah.
Okay.
I just Googled it here. Sludge plant.
Yeah, sludge is too cute. It's too cute of a name. Sludge is probably better.
So yeah, they what else happens at this arcade?
Not much. Duffy gets beat up. Lewis escapes, and RoboCop heads off to the sludge/smudge factory that we were just talking about. Do you have anything else from this scene?
No.
Cool.
So he kind of walks in, of course, not very stealthily, always banging around, which is funny to me because he's so loud. But they hear him coming in. But there's like a quick scene at the beginning. I guess it's their like hideout office or something where they have like memorabilia. Did you see that?
Oh, with like the Elvis skeleton and stuff?
They have Elvis skeleton
that was
a box
so weird.
on
I
display.
did not understand that. Yeah.
which I just thought was a really strange addition to this. Yeah,
Yeah, it's by
but
like a giant painting of Mother Teresa. It's a really weird room. I did not understand
I
that.
just took it as like these guys are rich and have a bunch of crazy stuff. You know, like Nicolas Cage has like a dinosaur egg, or like
Does he
a
really?
maybe it's not a dinosaur egg.
Hell yeah! I know
What
he has
is it?
like
Is it
castles and stuff.
has what?
He has like castles.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nicolas Cage does, yeah. Um, how much money would
I
you
just
need to
googled
have, Tanner?
Nicolas Cage egg, and I shouldn't have googled that. Very strange.
Yep, that's
Sorry,
on your
what did you
search
say?
history forever now. It wasn't. That's what I was going to say. How much money would it take for you to buy Elvis's skeleton? How much money would you need to have for that to be
Ooh, probably like $500 million.
500 million? Okay,
Yeah,
I'm going to hold you to
and then
that.
I'd
As soon
spend it
as you have
all
$500 million,
I'd spend it all on Elvis's body.
we're getting that sweet, sweet Elvis skeleton for the podcast.
Yeah, um, that'd be pretty fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's I think he kind of confronts him. He gets his hand shot off.
Yep.
He gets electrocuted, and immediately he just gets fucking beaten up basically immediately. He gets hit with this hook and he gets knocked over, and then a magnet picks him up. So they're basically they tie him up in this chair or strap him in on a bench or whatever, and they're trying to drill at him and sledgehammer him and open him up. So they've
Yep.
got RoboCop on the table here, which I thought was funny that they shot off his hand like instantly, but then had a lot of trouble trying to get the rest of it off.
Yeah, with just a
um,
bullet. Like a
yeah,
bullet took off his hand, but then they couldn't get his like chest cavity open or anything like that.
yeah. So there's a long scene of him just getting sledgehammered and drilled and um, sawed up and all that, and they end up stripping him into little pieces. So all of his limbs and stuff, and they take him. They torture him.
Yeah.
What else? What else happens in this scene?
They do. Yeah. So just to go back just a little bit, there was a line that I liked quite a bit when Kane and RoboCop first kind of confront each other. They're in like a weird factory abandoned building thing, and Kane and he kind of confront each other, and RoboCop uses his classic like "You're coming with me, dead or alive," and Kane goes, "One of us must die," and RoboCop goes, "Dead then,"
Yeah,
which I thought was a nice line. And oh, there was kind of a cool scene when the car got blown up, and you think RoboCop's in the car, but he was hiding.
Oh
But I
right.
think you got pretty much everything from that scene. Um, let's see what. Oh yeah, and then like Tanner said, RoboCop got kind of taken apart into pieces, and he gets dropped off at the police department where the cops are picketing. It's kind of like a threat from Kane and his crew to the police officers that are on the picket line there.
Yeah, and I
That
think
was all I had on there. Yeah,
I think they go back to the criminals, and they have the fat cop who is addicted to nuke. Right? Is this the
yep,
torture scene?
yep.
Um, and they basically torture this cop right in front of the kid. At one point, the doctor's like, maybe you should have the kid leave, and they're just like, why?
Yeah.
Like Kane says that. And this scene's kind of fucked up, and I'm going to talk more about it a little bit later. um, for a specific reason. I don't know. What is he? Does he offer the kid like alcohol or something here? Because he says, "Hey, I'm a minor. I don't want to break any laws or something like that." I can't remember what they offered him.
I don't think they offered him anything. I think it was just like murdering a person in front of a child.
Yeah.
Because they gut that dude. Like,
Yeah.
cut him open, cut his chest open. It's like, yeah, it's not great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they torture him. They make the kid watch basically.
Yeah.
I think some of the people are like, "Kane, what are you doing?" Like, I thought we were just gonna question him or scare him or something like that. But they kill him. And I think then it cuts to the Mrs. Fax again,
Yeah. Yeah.
and she's talking about using inmates for RoboCop 2's brain.
Yeah. Death row inmates. She's like she's looking at, not people with those Irish Catholic dad values, but literally people on death row. And some of the people at OCP, that's even too much for them. And so they tried to rat her out to the old man, the CEO at OCP. But it seems like those two are knocking boots a little bit. She shows up. They
Could
go to
be.
talk to him while he's in the hot tub, and she rolls through. She's hot tubbing with the old man.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
do time in the tub.
That's I was thinking that when I saw that scene actually. Yeah, and that actress, I'll come back to the comic. Um, but
What
yeah,
what was
so
that?
after this, RoboCop got completely taken apart. He got totally dismantled, and Fax is like kind of responsible for putting him back together now again. Um, And when they bring him back online, he's talking to the other cops, but something is wrong with him. He's using a lot of you betchas, and he's like way too happy and friendly, right?
Yeah, they talk about it in the board meeting.
Mm-hmm.
There's one guy who's kind of disagreeing with Miss Fax, but basically they're talking about how they want him to be more of a public servant. And the guy kind of jokingly says, like, yeah, maybe he should be saving cats from trees and going to schools and talking to kids and stuff like that, to increase his public image or whatever.
Sure.
So that's kind of what they program him to be like. So yeah, he just kind of is like, he comes back and everyone's kind of like more. All the cops are like, oh, this guy, he's way more likable and friendly all of a sudden, right?
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
betcha. And then he goes out on patrol as the new style RoboCop here. And there's a group of like kids in baseball uniforms
It's
with
it's like a little league team that's
yeah,
doing a robbery. Yeah, all in uniform.
and they're robbing and beating up the owner of the shop. I think it's like an electronics store or something. And RoboCop shows up and wants to talk. So now he's more of like I want to talk to people. Oh yeah, they were talking about how maybe he could like talk to people instead of like coming out with guns blazing and stuff like that and killing everybody.
Right.
So he tries to arrest the so one of the guys, the leader, the coach of this little league team or whoever it was,
Yes.
that one of the dads gets killed like pretty quickly in this shootout. And I think Lewis maybe kills him.
Yeah, Lewis hides behind RoboCop as he's walking towards this guy, this active shooter. And then she shoots out from behind RoboCop and gets this guy.
And
Yeah, it's
RoboCop
just
goes up to him and like tries to question him, basically, even though he's
yeah,
dead.
a dead body with a bullet in his forehead, and he's trying to interrogate this guy because of all this these new protocols that they've given him.
Yeah, so he goes up to the kids and he basically just like makes him feel bad or tries to make him feel bad for doing this crime and tells him why it's not good, and then tries to give him a little nutrition help as well.
Yeah.
So basically he turns into like what do you even want to call that? Like a teacher? Not a teacher, but like
kind of one of those
like
guys
try
you
to
get
brush
at
your teeth and
assemblies.
eat well,
Yeah,
and yeah.
like an inspirational speaker, motivational speaker. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the kids tells him to go fuck a refrigerator, pecker neck.
Yeah.
I love that.
Great line. Yeah.
He responds with bad language makes for bad feelings.
Oh.
So they just
Maybe
kind of
he's
watered
right.
him down.
Yeah, but he's
And
like completely ineffective as a cop at this point. Like
yeah.
Lewis had to kill the main bad guy in this heist scene, and while he's lecturing all these children, they all run away. So he's like not doing his job as a cop.
They also spray paint Kick Me on his back.
They do, yeah. And I loved that scene. I thought it was such a funny idea to just have a bunch of like a baseball team robbing this store. Yeah.
But he does open fire on somebody here, Chris. Why does he do that?
That's right. A guy who's just smoking a cigarette by a no smoking sign. He like opens fire and puts like 6 bullets in the wall right by this guy's head. And
says,
go ahead.
Thank you for not smoking.
Yeah. So we get that scene, and then it kind of cuts back to a scene that's kind of showing what they changed, and we get a shot. Normally RoboCop has his 3 directives. The 3 main directives. I wrote them down. Do you have them with you, Tanner?
No, but just like the main ones.
Serve the public trust, protect the innocent, and uphold the law. Those were the 3 main directives in this one, and it shows the screen with I think it gets up to 250 directives that this thing has been that they've programmed RoboCop with now. And did you read any of them? Some of the ones on that list were pretty funny.
I have them right here, actually. Yeah.
Okay, hit me.
Well, I don't know if I want to read them all, but restrain hostile feelings, promote positive attitude, suppress aggressiveness, promote pro-social values, avoid destructive behavior, be accessible. Participate in group activities.
Yeah. Don't run through puddles and splash pedestrians or other cars was one of them at the end of that list, which I thought was hilarious.
If you haven't anything nice to say, don't talk.
Yep. Don't say you're always prompt when you are not.
Don't walk across a ballroom floor swinging your arms.
Amazing. Just amazing.
Avoid Orion meetings. Oh, there's a little dig on the company.
Oh, okay.
So that company, I think
that's the production company, right?
Yeah. They like kind of rushed this movie, and there's a lot of strife between them and what they wanted, and the vision and the writers and directors and everything. They were trying to just make some money, and I do believe that they weren't even a company by the time the third one came out, which was like only a couple years later.
That's really impressive, because these first couple movies were pretty successful, so that's quite a fall from grace.
Yeah, Orion had a ton of like big movies in the 80s, I feel like. I remember that. Yeah. Also, the next one after that is just Smile.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, basically they just kind of tone him down, make him like a good boy.
But all these extra directives are making it really complicated for him to do his job, because there's so many things for him to keep track of. Yada yada, like he can't be a cop because he's got so many things. So many like requirements of his behavior. And so anyway, the woman who's working on him here is not Dr. Fax. There's a second scientist who plays a small part here, and she makes some comment about how they could use electricity to reset his circuits, but that's really dangerous. And RoboCop hears that and walks outside and just grabs onto like an electrical box and fries himself, just to get rid of all these ridiculous directives.
I don't know how he knew that would work, but he decides to. I don't know if he was just trying to kill himself or what, but yeah, he like shorted out. So now he has no directives, not even the original 3.
Yeah.
So it worked pretty well.
Yep.
And all the cops kind of help him out, because at the end of the day, they're all cops and they're all friends. And it seems like the cops are back at this point, right?
It does seem like the strike is really kind of set aside because they want to help out RoboCop and help him go get Kane. And he doesn't have any directives, so like all bets are off, bro.
Exactly.
Public trust.
Hell yeah.
I don't know about that. Innocent. I'm not protecting them.
I'm swinging my arms through every ballroom. Fuck that.
That's right. I'm stomping in all the puddles. I'm getting all those pedestrians wet.
Getting all the pedestrians wet. Oh, damn.
Dang, dude.
Shoot. Let's see. There's a quick scene. I can't remember exactly what else is happening, but they mentioned that there's like a type of nuke for every mood. So it's kind of like, I don't even know, like makes you happy or I think he mentioned something about maybe like makes you horny too.
It seems like the end game here for Kane is to sell like nuke for like regulating your emotions from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed. Like you're
Yeah.
constantly like modifying the way that you're feeling with this new drug. And so they have a quick scene with that where it shows like different colors of nuke, and you can buy these like arrays of different versions of it to help you feel the feels that you're trying to feel.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
And then I think it's just this is RoboCop. He comes to where Kane is at, right?
Yeah.
So Kane at their whatever their hideout or something. RoboCop shoots up or shows up. There is the first thing I got is that he shows up. There's like a sniper, and he shoots right down the barrel into the eye of the sniper.
Yeah, up his scope into his eye. Brutal kill shot.
And a lot of just wasting fools, as I
Yeah.
like to put it. Just a big shootout scene here. At one point, unless you have anything else, Kane hits RoboCop with his car or with his truck or whatever he's driving. And then
the only thing I want to add about that shootout scene, RoboCop has gotten really good at no look shots. They did a lot of those in that scene where he just looks one way and shoots the other. But yeah, it's just a long shootout, and like Tanner said, ends with Kane hitting RoboCop with the car.
Yeah, and Robo's like on the front of the car, and they're driving around the street, and at one point drive through an entire bar, like through the wall, and then through the entire bar, and then out the other side of the wall.
Yeah,
which is insane. But
but RoboCop's fine because he's a robot.
Yeah, he's totally fine. But he at some point he gets knocked off, I believe, and then gets on a motorcycle.
Yep.
And they kind of chase around a little bit. At one point, towards the end of it, he gets in front of the car and turns around and chases it down like chicken style, plays chicken with it, and just crashes right into the front, I believe, and goes through the windshield.
Yeah, and it's not really chicken when you're a robot because you can just run into the truck, right? He's on a motorcycle and he goes headlong into this truck, but crashes through the windshield and is able to apprehend Kane at this point.
And I think, basically he kills Kane or gets him. He almost kills Kane here, so it's success. Mm-hmm. There's something I have written down here next, and I don't know how it fits in, but something about State Attorney Schwinkter.
I also wrote down that State Attorney Schwinkter. So the truck that he was driving was also a armored vehicle, and so the truck had $500 million in drug money in it, which was seized by State Attorney Schwinkter, which is the name that you had there.
Nice. Okay,
yeah, there you go.
And then we get, I think we get a little ad here, just in the middle. There's something called Sunblock 5000. Due to, it's the future and the environment being shitty. There's no ozone, a very low ozone amount, right? So the sunblock is this bluish green, just covers your whole body, and it's supposed to be extremely strong sunblock. It's like a model advertising it.
Do you think this is where James Cameron got the idea for Avatar?
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
That's it's very sexy.
From Sunblock 5000. Yeah.
Which is also in the game. I'm gonna keep saying that throughout, but there's
great.
Yeah. There's a guy that you come across covered in Sunblock 5000. And the reason in the game that you have to help him or whatever is that it causes skin cancer, which is in the ad. Using it a lot causes skin cancer, which defeats the whole purpose.
Dude, I want to play this game now. This game sounds awesome.
Hey, there's so many references. It's great.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll talk more about it in a little bit, but
yeah.
At
this point, back to the movie. Not to interrupt too much, but we will get to the game at the end. Kane is kind of on his deathbed. He's in the hospital. He's super injured from his fight with RoboCop. And at this point, Dr. Fax identifies him to be RoboCop 2. Whatever she was looking for with all those death row inmates, she has found with Kane, and so he's going to be the new RoboCop 2. And meanwhile, the little boy, what was his name again, Tanner? I know you just had that pulled up.
Hob.
Hob?
Hob.
Hob? What's his first consonant? I'm missing it.
Huh.
Huh?
H-O-B.
Thank you.
Hob.
Okay, so like, yeah, okay. So Hob, he's kind of in control of the gang now. Kane's out of the way. And Angie is a nuke junkie. So he pretty much has her under his control. And so he's in charge. Meanwhile, Dr. Fax kills Kane and basically steals his insides to make this new RoboCop. They take out his whole central nervous system, his spinal cord and his eyes and his brain. Yeah.
And I guess, they had like the front of his skull or face. I thought they kept his face, but turns out they didn't, because we'll tell you what he looks like later on.
Ooh, yeah.
And there's a quick little scene here. Spider Baby Stelensky. They're having a telethon.
Wait, that's that guy's name?
So yeah, they're having it cuts to a telethon with the mayor. They're trying to raise money for the city. And it starts off with
$37 million. Yep.
Yeah. Starts off with a guy playing the fiddle, Born to Be Wild on the fiddle, and he's like a leg contortionist playing the fiddle. And he's like upside down and like just all twisted up with his legs and his body. And his name is Spider Baby Stelensky.
Incredible. Amazing. Did you Google that? Well, that wasn't in the movie.
No, it says, yeah, it was. Yeah.
Oh, it was. Okay. All right.
They're like, thanks to Spider Baby Stelensky.
Okay. I missed that.
I have a feeling he's like a real guy just based on what it was.
It was honestly quite impressive.
Oh yeah, he's just completely pretzeled up while playing the fiddle.
Yeah.
And then so they get a call during the telethon, and the criminals are calling. The kid, and the girl are calling to donate a lot of money to save the city. So, yeah. And then I think it cuts to RoboCop 2 is finally built, and he's addicted to nuke because it's Kane. So they kind of built that into his I guess to make him function, or they basically like tease him with like, oh, we'll get you this nuke that you want if you take care of our business first.
Which I thought was a hilarious story choice, to have him be a drug addict that's also a RoboCop.
Yeah, it's totally bizarre.
It's so bizarre. Yeah.
They have like a giant like not cauldron, but like a giant stick full, or like tube full of this nuke stuff that they could stick in his body. But the weird part about this RoboCop is they didn't use his face or any human traits, except for like the screen kind of pops out of the head area, and there's like a CGI, really shitty early 90s CGI face on it, which is just a really strange. I don't know why they went that route with it. It looks really bad. Did you ever see Lawnmower Man?
I haven't seen Lawnmower Man. I keep hoping we'll watch it on Mondays, but I've not seen Lawnmower Man.
It's that quality of like CGI, just really bad early 90s. Like they should have just used video of his face or something.
I liked that animation. I think it's I think it's endearing in the same way that like Ed 209, the stop motion animation was in the first one. I don't know.
I don't know. Or just like, why didn't they just make him more like RoboCop with his face actually on there or something? I thought it looked pretty cheesy, but
that's fair. Totally fair.
Yeah. So they reveal the new RoboCop 2. And the next scene, I believe, is they send the RoboCop 2 to the sketchy location where the mayor is picking up all this money that they're donating. And what happens here?
Yeah. So the plan, the kid Hob, if I'm saying that right, had offered all this money in exchange. He gets to push Nuke in the new city. So he obviously there's some strings attached to all that money that he had offered to pay off OCP. But yeah, so now RoboCop shows up to this location, and it's another shootout.
RoboCop 2.
Sorry, RoboCop 2. Thank you very much.
The kid mentions that people do crimes because they need drugs, and there'll be no more crimes if drugs are always available.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Kind of true. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so they show up. We get a bunch more of that creepy TV face screen that Tanner talked about. Angie and him share a touch. So Angie was like in Kane's gang and was kind of his love interest. And they have a moment where it's like, oh, is she going to sleep with this robot? And then he freaks out and like rips off her head. So she's out of the picture.
Yeah.
And the kid barely escapes. The mayor barely escapes, but a bunch of people get killed here. And in the aftermath, RoboCop 1 shows up to talk to the kid in the truck. And he actually gets killed too. He caught a stray bullet from RoboCop 2. So Kane's whole gang is deceased at this point.
Yeah. Too bad.
Yeah.
The kid was cool. Yeah, he's like, he kind of has a little redemption moment of like, you feel bad. I think maybe they added this because he was a kid, and I was like, don't try to make me feel bad for this kid. I was shitty.
Yeah.
You know?
He was a great villain. It was really fun having a little kid as the villain. And I was actually really curious how they were going to kill him, you know, because like,
yeah,
you can't have him take a bullet to the face. It's a child, you know.
You can't just have. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah,
I think that's why they added this little scene of like, "Don't leave my side, RoboCop," and he's like, "I won't leave you," and it's like just because I think they had to add that in for like just the MPAA or something to allow it.
Yeah.
But yeah, what happens next?
The aftermath of this shootout has the mayor taking a bunch of heat because two of his like cabinet members, the people that he worked with, were found dead, like surrounded by all this drug money, surrounded by like dead nuke dealers, and so it really seems like he's in a lot of trouble. And we kind of get a scene in here too with the old man revealing his big new plan. He's just going to rip out old Detroit and build a new city where it was. And he's got this huge opulent display of like a model city, you know, the new, I'm not sure if it's called Delta City in this movie.
No, they don't really mention Delta City, I don't think.
No, that kind of went away from 1 to 2. But whatever this new Detroit is going to be, you know, they're going to rip out old Detroit to make it a reality.
And the crowd, like the people are kind of excited for this new like corporate takeover. It seems like the public are kind of into it because the crime is so bad and there's no cops or everything. I think they're like desperate for some kind of, you know, safety because it seems like a horrible place to live. Like just leave, go move somewhere else, get out of this place.
Yeah.
But yeah. So in this new city, model city thing that it comes out of the ground, also comes RoboCop 2 to be showed off in front of this little crowd here. And
it's their product launch for him too.
Yeah. RoboCop shows up, I think, right around this time, and he's kind of just in the back. And this RoboCop 2, what happens? What's the order of stuff that happens here? He destroys the remote control to act out on his own, right?
Before we even get that, the old man brings out a vial of nuke to show what the city is up against, and you can tell like RoboCop 2 just wants the drugs, so he's like, I don't know, kind of angling for it. And then there's a huge shootout. It's RoboCop versus RoboCop 2. They have a scene on the elevator. They escape up to the roof, and RoboCop 1 uses the line, "You're coming with me, Kane," and pulls him off of the roof of this building. They're like hundreds of feet in the air, but because they're both robots, when they hit the ground, they just go through to like a tunnel underneath.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
goes
Do you
like
have anything else
through.
for
He
this
goes
scene?
through the overhang or whatever of the hotel, and then
Yep.
through the street as well. Into
Thank you. Yes. Through
yeah,
the awning and then through the street
yeah.
into this thing on the like a boiler room. I didn't know what else to call that room down there.
I don't know, but there's like some kind of well, no, maybe that's on his hand. So basically, they have a little confrontation, and he
Mhm.
starts welding RoboCop's head, um,
He,
and is
he,
banging him around. It looks like two plastic toys fighting the way this is
yes.
filmed, um, and like a robot chicken fight. It kind of reminded me of that. You know how they have like action figures doing stuff.
Without a
Um,
doubt. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so he's like welding RoboCop's head, and then I think he like accidentally just like hits like a gas tank or something, and everything explodes. Is that what happened?
That might be it. I kind of lost track through parts of this fight scene. The that I think that probably did happen, and then they got exploded up onto the street. That this giant fight scene kind of spills out onto the street, and RoboCop 2 is taking all these shots at the cops. So he has fully gone rogue and is, um, become a PR disaster for OCP. And
Yeah, he's blown up. Lewis shows up here. She's barely in the
Yep,
movie, by the way. Um,
barely. Yep.
and she comes and gets into a tank, and she rams him right into a wall. RoboCop 2. Um, but the RoboCop 2 gets up from that. Didn't
Yep.
really do much. You could see Mrs. Fax is happy that the RoboCop 2 came out because this is her baby that she was trying to champion.
Yep.
Um, and I think it's Lewis gives it the nuke, right? So she's
Yes.
like comes up to it and is like, "Hey, I know you want this drug," and it gives it to him. During that moment that she gives him the drugs, RoboCop comes up and sneaks up and jumps on his back. Not the greatest plan, but I guess that's it's
It
kind of
worked
like leading
out.
up to like, oh, he gives him the nuke, and then I guess he just jumps on his back. Could have done that anytime. But lots of more banging around and roboting around, slamming into walls or whatever. Um, and while he's on top, he rips the brainstem out of its back and kills him. And that's the
Yep.
end of RoboCop 2, the creature, but not the movie.
But not the movie.
Or
There's a
the
little bit of movie left, and
yeah,
it's
not a whole lot
mostly
though.
not a whole lot. Yeah, it's OCP bigwigs are kind of figuring out how they're going to spin this, and they basically decide they're gonna pin it on this rogue scientist, Dr. Fax, because she did pick the brain. And yeah, what else is left in this thing?
I he kind of like blames they kind of talk about with his other sidekick, the old man and the guy from the first movie. They're trying to blame the girl for all this, basically
Yep.
to get the corporation out of it.
Yep.
And they get away with it. And I think the last all I have is it ends on this kind of a joke line where he says patience. She's like, of course they're getting away with it about the corporation. And RoboCop says, "Patience, Lewis. We're only human." As he's wrenching his head back
Yes.
together, and then it ends.
And then it ends. Cut to credits. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of a weird ending, like a just abrupt ending, like nothing story wise. It just kind of ends. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a fight, and I
I mean,
did
they did
read.
defeat RoboCop 2. That was kind of the whole thing here, right?
True, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Kane is no more.
Kane is no more. Corporation gets away with it.
Yep.
I did read that they were like, even Peter Weller was kind of like, I feel like the third act doesn't have any big moment or anything, and the company's just like, no, you got a big fight. What else do you need?
Yeah.
So there was a lot of tension, or like at least issues with the production company. It sounds like. But Chris, what'd you think of RoboCop 2?
RoboCop 2. I mean, I would actually like to hear. Did you read the graphic novel at all?
No.
I would love to hear your opinion first because I feel like my opinion was colored a lot by having read the book first. to see like where it came from or what it could have been. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I thought it was. I don't know. I thought it was entertaining. It has its moments. Um, it doesn't have the impact as the first one. Um, there's a couple good commercials and some good action scenes, some good lines. I like when they turn him into like the nice guy cop. I thought the final fight and like the villain was kind of a letdown in that, but I did love the kid as the villain. So I'd say it's like a 3 out of 5 in my opinion, something like that. Definitely worse, but it's not a total travesty. Um, yeah, that's kind of how I felt about it. So let me hear what you got to say.
Yeah. Let's see. I watched this movie for the first time probably 10 years ago. And I didn't really remember much from it. And that might tell you something about just the quality drop from 1 to 2. But then last week I read the Frank Miller like graphic novel. And I'll talk about that in a little bit, but it's really dark. And I think I just really appreciated seeing elements of that story because they took his story and added some stuff to it. And I thought the graphic novel was too dark. It was too dark for me. And I actually enjoyed quite a few of the things that they added. You know, the baseball team robbing the store, the kid, just the insane graphics on RoboCop 2, the face that you talked about before, I actually thought was an improvement over what they put in the graphic novel. It's just this giant, like, over the top muscle freak.
Oh, okay.
Like robot muscle freak.
Is he made out of metal or muscles, or it's like?
I mean, it's a RoboCop, so I think it's mostly metal, but it just looks really strong. It's like,
gotcha.
It's just too much. was my thinking on it, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people are gonna hate that I have that to say, but I did not care for the Frank Miller graphic novel nearly as much as I liked the movie, because Frank Miller took it really dark. And then, like they also made that animated show for children. And I think, if you lose, I don't know. I just thought the graphic novel was too dark. And so watching this after it, I was like, I found it more enjoyable because it was just more of there was more fun to be had in this movie than there was in the graphic novel. So I don't know if I would give it much more than a 3 out of 5 like you did, maybe a 4. I think I liked it a little more than you did, but yeah, I mean, it's certainly not quite as good as the first one, which is just a stone cold classic.
So what were some of the big differences then? Like besides the way that guy looked and just being dark, what is it? Just the dark tone in general, or?
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, should we transfer into to the
no, just talk about that now. Since we're talking about it.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the graphic novel for 2, what Frank Miller had originally written, is mostly just the subplot of them making a RoboCop 2. So it's the Dr. Fax and it's the character Kane, but they don't really have the drug, like the nuke epidemic, in the same way in the graphic novel. So Kane isn't like a big figure before he becomes RoboCop 2. The doctor, her name is Dr. Margaret Love in Frank Miller's version. And yeah, it's mostly that. And then at one point, the RoboCop 2 falls apart and Margaret Love puts herself into the RoboCop 2 like robot thing. So she becomes like Dr. Fax in this movie. That character becomes the villain, the RoboCop 2 at the very end for the final showdown.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it is kind of a cool little twist, but it's just a lot of fighting, a lot of bullets, a lot of explosions, a lot of faces melting off. It's just, I don't know, it's just very dark, I thought. Because I think that this franchise is so fun because it balances the dark with the satire and the sorts of things. And the satire, like I mentioned before, one of the things that I noticed that they pulled wholesale was the ad with the guy committing suicide, and that's pretty dark. And that's
it's definitely dark. It was kind of funny, but yeah, I know what you mean. It's like, wow, that's like,
like
darker than the other dark ones. Like the hospital one is like dark, but like kind of funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's still like the satire is first and the darkness is second. But I think a lot of his stuff just like, this is the darkness in people, and I'm going to make a RoboCop story about it. So
Yeah, it's a tough balance, I think, to nail.
Yeah. But it was interesting, and this is my whole milk section, but it was interesting to read about kind of the history of how he came to be involved in this. And I had read a little bit of Frank Miller stuff because he did 300 and Sin City. But he wrote a ton of stuff back in the 80s and the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And he got famous with Daredevil and The Dark Knight. And then he had the opportunity after that writer's strike in 1988 to write the scripts for these. And it was really interesting reading about the original scripts because Orion Pictures had given the original writers 2 months to write a RoboCop 2 after the success of RoboCop 1.
Wow.
And the movie that they turned out sounded insane. It was going to be called RoboCop 2 Corporate Wars. It was going to be set 25 years after, and corporations had turned all the major cities into these places called plexes. So it sounded like the sequel was going to be basically set in Delta City.
Mm-hmm.
And so then that movie kind of fell apart because of the writer's strike, and it also sounded insane. And then Frank Miller and also Alan Moore, writer of The Watchmen, were offered this project, and Frank Miller took it. Alan Moore did not. And then the version he wrote was unfilmable, which I would agree based on my take on his graphic novel. It's just too dark and too gritty, and there's not enough of the fun stuff about RoboCop. But a lot of the Frank Miller version did make it into the movie because they just brought in a guy to do rewrites. So I don't know. It was interesting to see another take on this for me, and interesting to see kind of like, that this sequel had gone through so many hands and, so many changes between the beginning and what we ended up with. So
awesome.
Anyway, so that was my milk for this week.
Cool.
Yeah. Did you have anything?
Well, yeah. Let's talk about this RoboCop 2 in general here. But yeah, that's awesome. I'll get to mine.
Yeah.
At the end here. I'm glad we talked about that. Yeah. That is very cool. RoboCop 2, let's see. As far as the box office and all that, looks like it made about $45 million on a $25 to $30 million budget. Made $20 million in rental sales as well. So another success, which ushered in, a direct sequel. Do you think that it deserved another sequel, Chris? Do you think there was more to do here?
I mean, I think so. I enjoyed the second one. Honestly, I don't know what else they would do after making a second RoboCop for him to fight against. But, I still thought this one was pretty fun, and it's an interesting enough character. There's plenty of corporate malfeasance for them to make fun of, and, the world changes and you can keep satirizing that. So I think it's ready for another one. But what did you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, is the next one just going to be RoboCop 3? Is there just the third?
It's bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, another one. Yeah, it didn't really advance any of the overarching world or story in this one, except for the fact that they're trying to make more RoboCops. And I guess that might be where they're taking it. I can't remember. I haven't seen RoboCop 3.
It seemed like the big reveal in this one is that they were going to build a new Detroit over the top of old Detroit. But that was the plot of the first one. Like, that's Delta City. So, exactly. You're right. It doesn't really push anything forward. OCP is just as evil as it was in the first one, just with more, I don't know. It seemed more of like fascist iconography that they used, those big red flags and that stuff. But their plan was the same.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any beef or MVPs in this movie?
Great question. Yeah, I mean, I still like the main two actors for Murphy and Lewis. I thought were good again. and I don't know. It's too long. My beef is it's too long. There's too much stuff in it. There's too much stuff happening. And the first movie, I after we're done talking, I could put that on again and just watch it again. It's so fun. It's so quick. And this one just didn't feel that way. It was too long.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What did you think?
Yeah, the MVP would be probably just RoboCop himself. Just general RoboCopping around, fun lines, and there's still a lot of fun to be had. But yeah, it was definitely too long and didn't take the story anywhere, didn't take the world anywhere. The stakes seemed pretty low, stuff like that, but it's not like a total travesty or anything.
Yeah, I think for a sequel, it's fine. It's not a disaster. It's not a travesty, like you said. It's just fine.
Sounded like the director had his own ideas for things. A lot of, like we talked about, production just back and forth, like everyone having their own vision or want to do one thing, and a lot of fighting with that. Some people said the production was really crappy to be on. Some people said it was all right, but
okay.
It was the director of The Empire Strikes Back. I saw he directed that, so they brought him in on like a sequel, maybe to maybe he can save this and make it a good sequel, like they did with Star Wars.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I don't know.
I also think that the bad guys, both Kurtwood Smith and Miguel Ferrer in the first one, are so good that the bad guys in this one feel a little weak in comparison.
Yeah, Kane kind of sucks, and he doesn't really get to do much. He's just kind of like this. Yeah, he's like kind of a hippie cult leader kind of feel to him,
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't have any awesome lines. He's not very menacing.
And after bitches leave from Kurtwood Smith, like those are big shoes to fill,
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it seems like the actual villain is the corporation in the movie, right? Not.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, they take him and make him into a new RoboCop to fight. But yeah, so that's that. Some little tidbits about this movie that I saw. I thought it was. We talked about promotion last week with the Richard Nixon thing. This one was promoted at a WCW event where RoboCop showed up to fight and like stopped.
Is that wrestling? WCW?
Yeah, I think it was. I wanted to say Canadian. I don't know if it's Canadian, but it's like the other WWF.
Gotcha.
Two like leagues at the time. And I think there was famous people in both, but
I love that. That's great.
This other thing is kind of fucked up. I kind of teased it earlier. The scene of the guy getting his stomach cut open.
Yeah.
So there was a guy, like a serial killer that came out that was like a year after this, named Nathaniel White, who was inspired by this movie and said, like, that's how he killed his first victim. He was watching RoboCop 2 and said, like, that looks cool. I want to do that. And
that's fucked up.
I don't know what you want to take about it. I'm not like saying movies are causing it or anything, but
yeah,
that did happen, and there was a lot of talk about how violent this movie was, and especially like people talking about actually it wasn't that violent compared to other stuff, but I just thought that was pretty crazy. It's like well documented on here, him talking about that.
Sure.
Yeah. And then let's see here. Yeah, I think that's all I got on RoboCop tidbits. A nice note to go out on here, a nice little serial killer note. This is actually just going to be a podcast, a murder podcast now. But every murder is dedicated to
a RoboCop.
People who are inspired by milked franchises.
And oh man, I can't wait till we get to
the Wonka.
To the Wonkaverse, yeah.
The Wonka murders, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anything else you want to talk about in RoboCop 2 before I go into my milk of the week?
Oh, there was one thing that I put in my notes just about my milk, and then I'll be done. It was also way sexier, like a lot of sexily dressed women in
Oh,
ours,
in the
in the
graphic.
comic book, in the graphic novel, even compared to the movie.
Well,
But
that
then I
sounds
would
good
love
to
to
me.
hear. Yeah, I mean, if you want like a kind of toxic book with some great action scenes and some funny lines, and some great stuff that made it into the movie from the book, there's some great stuff in there, but it's also kind of a hard read sometimes. So, yeah, I would love to hear about your milk. What did you get into this week?
I also read a Frank Miller graphic novel comic book, and also played a game. So it's a Super Nintendo game called RoboCop versus the Terminator, and
Whoa.
it's based directly off of a Frank Miller adaptation that they made in 1992. So it's just 4 issues, pretty quick read of incorporating these two franchises, and it's pretty fucking awesome.
Hey.
And so the game is, whatever. It's a pretty good. It's for a long time. It was maybe before this new game came out, the best reviewed RoboCop game out there by far. And it follows the exact same story as the comic. I found out later because I read the comic after I was playing it. Getting a little feedback there, but I played the game for a little while. It's just simple side scroller, but a lot more accessible and better than those other ones I played last week.
Sure.
But yeah, pretty fun game. Clips of the comic are in there, kind of telling the story as you go along, and then just basic shoot 'em up style in between. But the story is basically this: that RoboCop, at one point, because he's like got a human brain, is plugged
Yeah.
into Skynet, and 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 he's the reason that Skynet ends up in becoming so smart that they wipe out the human race. So basically, this girl named Flo Langer is kind of like the John Connor of this story, is sent back in time, or I guess, wait, John Connor's mom. No, wait, I can't remember how that works. She's kind of like the John Connor or somebody. She's sent back in time basically to kill RoboCop because RoboCop is the one who, destroys the world basically. But she gets there and tells RoboCop all this, and she realizes RoboCop's part human, and she's like, "I'll never kill a human because in our world, like machines are killing all the humans. I would never do that." And they find, he's like ends up trying to help her and protect her at a certain point. So she's like conflicted with this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, basically just that. There's a couple moments where either they are about to finish the job and destroy Skynet, or like they go past the point of changing the future, and then at the last second they'll send back like another Terminator to intervene. And it's just a really fun little way to incorporate both these stories. I don't know how much you know about the Terminator franchise or what
I've
it's all
seen
about.
one. I've seen 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are mainly the only ones you need to see anyway.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, anyway. So yeah. I
Cool.
don't think there's anything else to that, but it's a lot. It's definitely like it's got some dark Frank Miller tones, I guess, but it's a lot more fun, I think, than it sounds like your RoboCop version is. Um, a lot of nuclear war, a lot of machine battles and stuff like that. At one point, he fails and gets plugged into Skynet. Like the Terminators come back and they plug him in, and it basically like shoots ahead however many decades or whatever hundreds of years into the future it is. And the entire time he's like trying to, in the computer system, trying to like escape or get out, and gain control of the system, but the Terminators are kind of battling him. And then he waits for just at the right moment, he kind of like gets his chance, and it turns there's like a Terminator machine facility that's being completely operated by machines and all that. in the future, because there's hardly any humans alive.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like automated and running by itself. And he like gets his moment to come out of the machine and build himself into a new RoboCop that has like jetpacks and all these guns, just like totally load this massive robotic RoboCop machine. And he even like, they mentioned that he decides to make it look like his old self instead of like the Terminators.
Okay.
And yeah, he gets out of there, and then his consciousness is in this new RoboCop in the future, and there's a huge war, and he ends up building like hundreds of RoboCop machines to help fight the war in the future and save the humans, which is pretty badass. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. I enjoyed it a lot.
I love that they brought those two franchises together. I didn't even know that there was a RoboCop Terminator thing.
Yeah, it
great.
fits pretty well. Yeah. I like the idea that his human brain is what caused these machines to actually become more sentient. You know what I mean? Instead of just machines.
He's the missing link.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's that. I played the game as well, as I mentioned. I also watched a cartoon. So one of the other cartoons, I think I talked about the 80s one. This one came out in 1998. So it's like 10 years later. And it's kind of a futuristic version of RoboCop. He's been dormant for a long time, and it's like 2030. And they reactivate him to help fight off crime, basically. And it's I don't know. I don't really have a whole lot to say about it. It's just kind of a basic syndicated cartoon from the 90s. Not a whole lot of connection to the first film. They change a lot of the stuff. He doesn't ever take off his mask or anything. His helmet. He just is
he just does a bunch of raids, right? Is it
just
that
an alpha commando?
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, no. It was okay. Nothing to write home about. But yeah, I think that's all I got. That's my milk. Love the RoboCop stuff, or RoboCop Terminator stuff. Very cool. I will put myself playing that up on our YouTube as well. Yeah, anything I put online for that is just, it's kind of a showcase. I'm not trying to beat all these games or anything to completion, but just kind of showing and showcasing all these games along with the stuff that we're watching and talking about here.
Yeah, I think that's the fun part, right? We just live in RoboCop land for a month, you know, and that includes video games and books and whatever other stuff we can find, TV shows, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you watched the TV show, right? Last week? And it was the early 90s one?
Yes.
Okay. Because there's some other show that I watched, and it was also an hour and a half episode, and I was wondering if that was the one. But it seems like there's 4 made-for-TV movies.
I saw those also.
Prime Directive or something.
I'll look when we're off mic. I'll look and give you a better answer on that as to exactly what it was that I was watching. I think it was the TV show though, the one from the 90s.
Cool.
But,
anything else you want to talk about here?
Yeah, I don't think so. Pretty fun movie, not perfect. And kind of fun to see where all this stuff comes from. And I think that was my real takeaway from reading the Frank Miller stuff.
Yeah, the same here with the graphic novel. That makes me realize that, we're talking about, should there be another sequel to a movie like this, or did they set us up for a sequel? Which I don't think they really did in this storyline, but there's a lot that you can still do with this character. You know what I mean? If it's done correctly, this crossover is probably one of the best crossovers of any franchises that I've seen. Two good franchises and something that really works between the two.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
It stays true to both of them equally. Pretty cool. Anyway.
No small feat.
Yeah, definitely. So if you like the show, please rate and subscribe and all that. Join us. Please follow along. Take the survey. It's going to be in the show notes. and on our Reddit page, wherever you want to get it. Chris, I'll see you next time for RoboCop 3. Does that sound good?
Sounds great, man. Looking forward to it.
Cool. Well, have a good one. See ya.
Bye.